everybody. Today I'm going to go over the second part of your dating and relationships online Section 3 assignment. So we're picking up with the must-haves and can't-stands here. So if you go ahead and click on this, and it'll open up. I have one open already. And it'll show up like something like this. And it talks about choose only 10 must-haves for you and highlight your choices. You could only highlight it if you make a copy, and feel free to do that. Otherwise, you can just write them down if you want, and erase and change as you go, because there's a lot. Like if you flip through, it's all like different types. So you'll stop when you get to the can't-stands, and then you'll do 10 of those. So just kind of read through, and I think it helps just to highlight them. Like to me, like emotionally healthy is super important. To have someone that's really emotionally healthy and able to really do stuff. Strong character, strong enough to do the right thing. You know, I can do any of those things. Like artistry. Like maybe it's really important to someone to have passion, music, literature, have that stuff. For me, it's not. I love those things, but it's not an important piece, if that makes sense. So you just kind of keep scrolling and either write down or make your own copy and highlight. And then I would leave this up though. And then basically once you get your 10 and you've looked through all of them, don't just get 10 and then stop, because then you might end up with things that aren't as important to some of the other things, right? Like ambition. Maybe you have a partner that shares your desire to achieve things really well. That kind of stuff. All kinds of different things here, okay? So pick 10, and then whatever those 10 are, you're going to put them here. So you can copy and paste. Feel free to copy and paste them, but they go in that spot. And then you'll do the same thing for your can't-stands. So you scroll down until you get to the can't-stands, and then these are the things. Can't-stands are what you really do not want in a partner. So if you know about this, you wouldn't be interested in dating them, right? So like it could be vanity, dependence, lying, cheating, anger, if they're really rude, unhappy at work, maybe they've been complaining, denial, workaholic, okay? So like some of these would be huge for me. Like if they're lying or cheating, that's a deal breaker for me, right? Okay, workaholic, not as much. I like a decent amount of alone time. So if they're gone a lot, I'd maybe be okay with that. But other people are like, oh, I want to be with my partner a ton. So if they're working all the time, that'd be a deal breaker. Okay, so just thinking about what those things are for you. There's no right or wrong answers for any of these. That's why they're all here. And this is where it's hard. Like, it's sometimes hard to pick your top 10. Okay? So you just have to kind of like, what are your biggest ones? Okay, and then they will go down here. And then on number 8 on your assignment, it says reflect on the must-haves, can't-stands sheet that you completed. This should be a really good solid paragraph for kind of how you feel about it. It could be like how hard was it for you to like narrow it down. This could be an opportunity to talk about, oh, if I could add something, these are maybe a couple that I would add. You can kind of do any of those. Okay, so that, I think it's just a good process and a good thing to really be thinking about, so that it's like, okay, if I run into anybody with this stuff and they act this way, then I'm just done. And we're more likely to not make excuses for them when we really have these things highlighted in our minds. Okay, and for online dating, sometimes you can catch some of this stuff before you even meet them, and then you're not wasting your time. Okay. So on to that. Next is the love languages. So the first step is to take this quiz. So you click on it, and then it comes up here, and just this first thing where it says love languages quiz, do that. There's these apology languages, anger, resentment. I've never even taken those. I don't know. It might be interesting, but the love languages one is the one I want you to take. And then there's one for couples, singles, teens, and children, and you can pick. You can do the ones for couples, you can do the one for singles, you can do the one for teens, because all of those could fit you depending on what you're doing. So that's where you click on the quiz and then pick either. Don't do child, that's going to be not for you. But I would pick an adult. I would pick single. If you're in a relationship though, pick in a relationship if you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. And then this is when it starts. So then you just go, it's more meaningful to me when someone I love sends me a loving note, text, email for no special reason, or I hug someone I love. Okay, which one do you have a preference for? And then you're going to put that in there. So like for me, that would be for me. There's no right or wrong answers for this. You're just picking between each thing. And then this one is more meaningful to me when I can spend alone time with someone I love, just us, or someone I love does something practical to help me out. Okay? That's my preference. Everybody has a different one. You just keep going back and forth and picking one until you finish. Okay? Once you finish, you'll get something that looks like this. I just kind of paged through mine and did mine really quick. And then the words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, physical touch, and acts of service. This is my order of the things I prefer. A lot of you are going to get such different things because everybody's different. The whole point is figuring out what it is that is actually important to you. And there's nothing wrong. Like please don't be discouraged if you like gifts. Like some people think, well, I shouldn't want gifts because then it's materialistic, and that's not the case. Gifts can totally be something not like expensive or those kind of things. It's just like a token of appreciation. So don't worry, there's nothing wrong with any of these. Some people could look at words of affirmation and be like, oh, you shouldn't need people to say nice things to you. Well, I don't need it, but that's what like shows me someone loves me, basically. Okay, even though I don't need it. Okay, so that's what you're looking at this with. And then you're going to take your percentages and you're going to put them in your assignments. So I have this. I would put the 40% and type in 40 for my percent for the words of affirmation. You put in whatever yours are here. And then we have, what do these love languages mean? And then giving examples to it. You can scroll down and then it shows you on here. This has each definition. And then it gives usually an example, okay? But this one's like hearing the reasons behind that love is like the biggest one. So like it could be something like, oh, I really love how you do that, like how you take care of everybody around you, or you're really empathetic and I appreciate that about you. That could be an example. There's tons of examples. Okay, and then you can hit next, the little arrow buttons, and then it explains the quality time, the receiving gifts. And again, it talks about this as not materialism. It's just the thriving on the thoughtfulness behind the effort of the gift, right? Physical touch, and then acts of service. So it gives you all of that. And then I also have notes that go through this too that'll help you. Okay, so there's also notes on the love language. So it's talking about what it's about, how each of us speaks it, and then it talks about the different love languages. And it gives the example. So if you're having a hard time with examples, I think this is helpful. So obviously you're not going to do the activity pieces, but it talks about different, like, is it a match? One of the things, like so was married, not married anymore. Our Myers-Briggs and our love languages were exact opposites. So that's part of the reason I think we didn't work. And so I think before you get really, really serious with someone, I think it can be really helpful to understand their Myers-Briggs and their love languages. So that's kind of part of why we go through this. So, and then kind of like, what do you see people being able to do? What would work with that? Okay, so that's this part right here. So giving the what is it and a specific example. And then find one other person to take the quiz that you're close to. It can be anybody. This is helpful for more than just like romantic relationships. Like I make sure I know my daughter's love language so that I know that I'm showing her love in the proper way that she needs it instead of the way I need it. Hers is pretty similar to mine, but a little different. So she needs a little bit different stuff. And so then you just tell me, like, who are they? Who's the relationship? Is this like a boyfriend and girlfriend? Is it a friend? Is it a parent, sibling? Any of those things. And then you're just going to put their results in their percentages. And then based on your percentages and their percentages and what they each have, you're going to tell me what are the differences between their love languages and yours, and what are the similarities, and then how do you think the similarities or differences have impacted your relationship? So if you're really different, how has that impacted? If you're really similar, how has that impacted? Maybe it makes it easier. And then what could they do to make you feel more loved? So how would they do it? Maybe you need more words of affirmation or more acts of service, like helping you, right? And then 13 is what could you do to make them feel more loved? And then for looking for a partner, what love languages would you prefer that they have as their highest ones? And usually it's probably going to be your top 2. Because usually whatever is important to us to feel loved, we're really usually pretty good about doing that. Much better. Like to me, my acts of service is my lowest one. So it's hard for me to actually do it. It just takes way more effort than doing words of affirmation. Okay, but it's all going to vary based on you. And try to have someone do this. If there's someone that you have a harder time, that you just kind of butt heads or don't get along with quite as well in your family, might be a good to do this with them, and maybe you'll see that these are really different, and having that better understanding of them and each other can help. Okay, so that's that piece. And then you'll have an online dating section to do. That'll be a posted separate assignment on Schoology. You're going to kind of just make your own online dating profile, and then, but not actually online, just on like a Google slide. But it just kind of brings you through the process of it. And then when you're done, you're going to just fill out this little reflection. Okay, so this is it for this section. The last section, section 3, is going to be on the healthy notes, healthy relationships, and those pieces. Okay, have a great day.